Hey guys, welcome back to Redefine Our Prime. My name is Chris, and today we have a new special guest to the video, Kyle.
What's going on, everyone?
And so today we're going to talk about fantasy football. But before we get into that, if you can please just take a second, click on that subscribe button. It would really mean a lot. We're trying to get to 100 subs, so thank you so much. If you have a second, just go ahead and click on that button. So fantasy football, right? It's one of the biggest parts of everyone's day, everyone's Sunday. We sit down on TV, we watch, we check our phones a million times looking for that. But before that happens, we draft. And when you draft in fantasy football, what's one of the most important picks that you get? The running back position. And Kyle loves fantasy. That's why we brought him here today, to talk about sports and talk about fantasy. So running backs, Kyle, who are your top 3, 4, 5, whatever running backs, who do you think are the top picks this season?
So obviously, anyone that's playing fantasy football this year, they all know the top 3. It's consensus. It's easy. If you have a top 3 pick, you're taking either Saquon Barkley.
Odell Beckham play. Gain of 7, Beckham's 8th reception. Now Barkley up the middle, cuts to the outside. Saquon Barkley across midfield, down the sideline, stayed in bounds, and Barkley takes it all the way.
You're taking Christian McCaffrey.
On second down, pass is caught. That is McCaffrey. And in the foot race, McCaffrey to the end zone.
Taking Alvin Kamara.
Offensive momentum.
Kamara hits the gas pedal and gets in.
Obviously, it's kind of a toss-up who you want, who gets more catches. If you're in a PPR league, all 3 of these guys, you can't go wrong. If you're looking for someone that's going to get more touchdowns, McCaffrey is probably at the end of these 3 just because reports came out this week that on the goal line in goal-to-go situations, they're going to take McCaffrey out. Kamara on the Saints, there's no more Mark Ingram. It's all his. He's good to go. When Ingram was out for the first 4 games in 2018 with the suspension, Kamara averaged over 30 points per game in fantasy, which is stupid. Obviously, Saquon, he is the go-to guy in New York. He is the legitimate #1 fantasy player in all drafts. You can't go wrong with all 3. If you have a top 3 pick, good for you. But really, where we go after that is the most important part of your draft, and because the running backs start to thin out after that, and we'll go into a little bit more depth in that in a little bit.
So I personally, if I think back to my drafts last year and everything that happened, I know Alvin Kamara did amazing. Unfortunately, I didn't get any of those picks. Saquon Barkley is a giant, and we all know that giants are just the worst. No. Sorry, I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, so I have to look over at Ron over there just to kind of give him a little nod because he is a Giants fan. And we'd love to hear in the comments below, what is your favorite football team, right? Let us know what you think. So running backs after those 3, because I think in all of my drafts, I don't have a top 3. So what am I looking for? Where am I going after that, Kyle?
So I think most people that are watching this right now are probably screaming at the screen, well, what about Zeke? And the reason why I left him out of that top 3 is he still hasn't reported. Last year, we all learned our lesson when it came to Le'Veon Bell. He didn't report. He wanted a contract. Everyone still took him top 2. And what happened? He didn't play the whole year.
Nope.
So it's all up to you. If Zeke plays week 1, he could be better than all 3 of those guys that were already touched on. But do you want to take that risk? Do you want to take that gamble? Because there's guys in that next tier that are still going to bring you just not as good as these top 3 guys, but is right there in the running. A guy that has kind of been lost and forgotten about because of how bad his team has been is David Johnson. David Johnson is still going to get 80 to 90% of the running back touches. He is going to get all the touches out of the backfield in the passing game. Now we got Kyler Murray, who's going to be a running quarterback. He's going to dump it off a lot. David Johnson's going to get 70 to 80 catches. PPR league again. You can't go wrong. After that, obviously we have our Le'Veon Bells. We have our Joe Mixon. You have the James Conner. These guys are all going to be right there at the end of the first round, maybe the beginning of the second round. It all depends on your draft. But the one guy I would caution in a lot of mock drafts that I've been looking at this year is Nick Chubb from the Browns. Obviously, there's a lot of hype on the Browns. They're going to be good. They're going to have an amazing offense. I think Nick Chubb is a stud. They do have Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt is going to be back after 8 weeks. He's suspended for right now.
They made the decision?
Yeah. So he's out for 8 games. So obviously Nick Chubb's going to get bulk of the touches for the first 8 weeks, but where he's going in the drafts is a little bit of a reach for me, just because I think of how much hype the Browns are getting. When Kareem Hunt comes back, there's too much to pass around.
Yep.
But a guy, again, that's even later, if I'm comparing to Nick Chubb, another guy that was a rookie last year, this is a homer pick for me, from the Broncos, Philip Lindsay.
Ooh.
Guy was incredible last year. If you compare side by side, if you put it up on the screen, Nick Chubb's stats and Philip Lindsay's stats, they are identical.
Well, wait, I have a question for you. How many punches were thrown from both? Because I know Philip Lindsay threw a couple punches last year. So
yeah, well, I can't speak for his character because I don't know. It seems like he has some character issues, but he's going much later in drafts than Nick Chubb is, and they have the identical stats. I know Royce Freeman is probably a handcuff that you're going to look at if you pick Philip Lindsay, but if you're looking later on in the draft, you don't want to take one of those top guys. You don't want to go at James Conner, Le'Veon Bell, Joe Mixon. Later on, maybe 4th round, Philip Lindsay is going to potentially be a running back 1.
So what are some of those deeper running back picks that you think people should look out for in later rounds, after all the studs are gone, maybe after all the second picks are gone? Who are other names that you think are worth looking at later on in drafts?
One guy for me that I've seen is ranked just around the top 20, maybe outside of the top 20 of the running backs, is Chris Carson from the Seattle Seahawks. This guy was an animal when he was on the field last year.
Yeah.
They have Rashad Penny. I know a lot of people are worried about him. But again, reports are looking at that Carson is going to get at least 2/3 of the workload, if not more. He's going to get the goal line carries. Obviously, if you get 6 points in your league for a touchdown from a running back, that's something that you're going to look for. He's not the biggest threat in the passing game, but again, you have Russell Wilson. He's going to be running a lot, so this is going to be a run-heavy team. There's going to be a lot of potential for touchdowns in the red zone. They're going to be in the red zone a lot. He's going to get a lot of goal-to-go carries. So Chris Carson is definitely somebody later on, second running back, you want to look at. Again, when we keep going down, like I was stating before, there's a lot of those running back by committee guys. Josh Jacobs from Oakland is another guy. You don't really hear much about him. He's not anything sexy like those top 3, even that tier 2 guys. He's going to be a guy, again, PPR leagues. I'm more focused on PPR. That's the kind of leagues I'm in. That's the main type of league that we have now is PPR. Josh Jacobs is going to get 4 to 5 attempts in the passing game a game. You can't go wrong when it comes to guaranteed touches. Leonard Fournette, Devontae Freeman, Derrick Henry, all these guys are type of guys that you're going to have to look at getting as your second running back. It's not a guarantee that they're going to be getting touches, but those are the type of guys that if you gamble on them, it's a high risk, high reward. But Fournette, Freeman, and Derrick Henry are those type of guys that are going to get those goal line carries that even if they only get you 30 yards for the day, if they get you 2 touchdowns, they're going to be better than a running back that gets you 100 yards. So I think focus on those guys that are going to get those goal line carries. Focus on those guys that you know that are going to get those touches for potential touchdowns.
All right, Kyle. So I heard your list that you said so far, but there's some people that are definitely missing, right? As someone who owned this person specifically in other drafts and other leagues that I had last year, you haven't mentioned Todd Gurley. That guy crushed it last year. Why haven't you mentioned him?
So Todd Gurley obviously is a guy that went top 1, top 2 last year. He dominated the ball. He was a workhorse. Couldn't go wrong with him last year. Obviously, everyone saw what happened with him in the playoffs last year. He had a knee situation. They said he was healthy, then he had to get 5 carries.
Yeah, we said
they said he was still healthy, and now reports are coming out that he's got knee tendonitis. And whenever you hear anything with a running back with their knee, that's terrifying. Now, Todd Gurley's going early second to mid second. If you think that this isn't going to be something that's going to affect him, take him. I would take him in the second round. No harm, no doubt about it. But if you're taking Todd Gurley, you better make sure that later on you handcuff and you get Malcolm Brown. Because this guy is a stud. He's going to get a lot of carries, especially if they have any doubt that Gurley can stay healthy. But for me, This guy's a workhorse. I hope he gets better.
So there's somebody else too, right? What about Melvin Gordon?
So Melvin Gordon is a little bit like Zeke right now. They're both holding out, but for some reason Zeke is still going in that first round. Zeke is going to be a little bit more penalty for you to pay if he doesn't play. Zeke is going to be that 4th, 5th pick in the draft. If he plays, awesome. He's going to probably be the number 1 overall player if he plays all 16 games. But Melvin Gordon, if he was reporting to camp and he was there, he would be for sure a first-round pick. Right now, he's right around like the 15th running back being taken in drafts. So if you can get him at the end of the 2nd round, that is something that I for sure would take a gamble on. Again, you got to make sure you handcuff him. But if Melvin Gordon, you get him at the end of the 2nd round, you are basically getting a potential top 5, top 6 pick in a normal draft if he was at camp and he did report.
All right, Kyle. Well, thank you so much for your insight. I know that me personally, as someone who likes playing fantasy football, I don't do enough research. I'm always the last minute. I'm always the guy during the draft pulling up websites really quickly trying to look. So thank you so much for your help here. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Please give it a comment on what you thought about Kyle's responses. If there's any other positions that you have any questions on, you can find him here on Redefine Our Prime. Just go ahead and ask him. He'll answer. And if you want to see him again, we'll do more of these videos for you. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time here on Redefine Our Prime.